Hello and welcome back. This is the Truth Seeker, and this is video number 2.4.2.0 in the Council of the Gods series. Complete review of L in Strong's Concordance number H410, the Hebrew word L. In our last video, we left off at Job, chapter 16, verse 11. Actually, that was Job chapter 18, verse 21. And this video, we will be picking up at Job chapter 19, verse 22. And just a quick overview again of the reason that we're going through these instances of the Hebrew word El in the Hebrew Scriptures is to set our understanding on a firm foundation with regard to the Hebraic use of the term El, the title El, which in turn will give us a much better grasp of the discussion with regard to the name El or the title El when we begin to discuss other topics with regard to the Council of the Gods ideas. While this is an exhaustive study on this title, it is necessary because I don't see anybody else doing this, with making it, freely available in this format, and so I felt it necessary to get it out there and get it distributed on the interwebs. So with that said, let's continue our study here. We are on the 82nd instance of the word El, or what I have counted as the 82nd instance, and in a total of 247 instances. So I'm actually not even halfway through this yet. So with this one, I am starting off a little slower because I've had a little break in this series. But I do plan on trying to pick up the pace a little more, but I'm not going to force myself, so we're just going to continue to grind away at these one at a time. So Job chapter 19, verse 22, the verse reads, "Why do ye persecute me as God, and are not satisfied with my flesh?" The highlighted phrase here is "as God." In the Hebrew, it is kamo el, and here's the Hebrew here, kamo el, and his translation is "like God." In this verse, they translate, "Why do you persecute me as God?" So it does it can convey that meaning as well as. The translation of El in this verse is just simply God. I've put this in a grouping of El. And also I wanted to finally talk about this dash which occurs in the Masoretic text, and that's the dash here between the word kamo and el, and it's like kind of tying these two together here. But actually, this dash, from my understanding, did not exist in the original Hebrew, but it is essentially an accent mark, and that little hyphen in the Hebrew is called a makef or makif. So if in the Hebrew, if a word has a makif, a hyphen, the stress usually shifts away from the preceding word and attends to the following word. So in this instance, kamo el, the title el receives the emphasis due to the makef or the makif, however that's pronounced, and so this is what this is signifying here is a way of stating this, and also it tends to affect the meter of the Hebrew words as they're being spoken. And so a lot of that has to do with what sounds right, what feels right, and what they were determining the traditional way of speaking it. You know, when the Masoretes were putting in their vowel notations and their accent notations. Anyway. If you wanted to read about that, I have the link here on the Makif, and it's at Hebrew for Christians, and I'll just pull it up so you can see it. And we'll open another window here. And again, I'm listing both words, kamo el, because they're, in a sense, they're being tied together, you know, like God. It's not one word, but it's two words in the Hebrew that are being tied together with the hyphen, the makif. And that's here on this side here. Let's see here. Yes, so that would be on point number 6 here. And so in this example above, the words bin Adam means son of man. When the makef, the phrase, with the makef, the phrase still means son of man. But the accent moves from the word Adam, resulting in a closed, unaccented syllable for the first word. The vowel therefore changes from tsere, long, to sagol, short, according to rule number 3 above. So in the first instance, here it is bin Adam, or Bain Adam. And in the second instance, it is bin Adam. So you can hear the difference in the vowel there. Excuse me, I have to sneeze. Oh, bless me. So let's move on to the next. At any rate, that's what the hyphen is in the Masoretic Hebrew. It's called a makef, and it is an accent mark affecting the stress of how the words are spoken. So moving on to Job chapter 20, verse 15, it reads, "He has swallowed down riches, and he shall vomit them up again. God shall cast them out of his belly. Again, the word used in this verse is El, simply God. Just to sort of look at it in the Hebrew, compared to the English. In the English, we say, God shall cast them out of his belly. But in the Hebrew, we see that the title El is actually at the end of the sentence. And in other words, stating something to the effect of, he shall cast them out, El. Like, who shall cast them out? El. That kind of an idea, like, where the actor of the sentence, in this case being God, or El, is noted at the end of the phrase. So just to sort of give you more of a flavor of how these things are being put together. And so let's move on to the next verse. In Job chapter 20, verse 29, it says, "This is the portion of a wicked man from God, and the heritage appointed unto him by God." Now, there's two instances of the word God in this sentence. The first instance is the word Elohim. The second is the word El, but it is with the prefix me, me'el, in other words, by God. So interesting to note that in this verse, the use of me Elohim in the first part, with a play on me'el in the second part, which is signifying that El and Elohim are synonymous with each other. So let's look at that in the Hebrew, just to verify the usage. And clicked on the wrong verse there. This should be Job 20:29. So just look that up. Job 20:29. Okay, here we go. And so here you have, let me just highlight it here. Me Elohim, for the first part, from God. And then in the last part, Me'el, by God, or from God. And again, the usage of the different titles of God, looking in the English, you would not know that the first instance of God is the same, is, different from the second instance of the word God. But in the Hebrew, we can clearly see, the title Elohim and then the title El. And the reasons for this, possibly, they, like, from what I've been looking at and going over, are things that have to do with meter, poetic expression, and what I'm trying to get into is just a deeper understanding for myself as well on the subtleties of the differences between the titles and the reasons for using the different titles. But obviously that we can see that they're drawing a parallelism, here, drawing the synonymous nature of both words together. In other words, El is not separate from Elohim. Elohim is interchangeable with the word El. El is interchangeable with the word Elohim in this particular instance, in this context. Okay, so next verse, Job chapter 21, verse 14. Therefore they say unto God, depart from us, for we desire not the knowledge of thy ways. The highlighted portion is unto God. In the Hebrew, it is la'el. La'el. It has the prefix la. And the translation, unto God. And also in the next verse, in Job 22, verse 15, there's a use of the word Shaddai, which is Almighty, or popularly translated Almighty. So just looking at verse 15 real quick, we can see Shaddai. And it's interesting, they also use that, they say Ma Shaddai, what is the Almighty, or who is the Almighty, that we should serve him. And Shaddai being the word which is denoting the Lord, the Almighty. In the previous verse, 14, we see, therefore they say unto God, that is La'el. So who is La'el? La'el is Shaddai in this particular context. So let me see how much more time I've got here in this. I'm trying to keep the videos to 30 minutes each. Okay, we're doing good. And let me go on to the next verse. Job chapter 21, verse 22. Shall any teach God knowledge, seeing he judges those that are high? And the highlighted portion is Hal-El. Hal-El. Some would pronounce this Hal-El, Hal-El, or Hal-El, Hal-El. And they are translating this unto God. Now, Le-El is unto God. Ha-Le-El, or Hal-El, is a little bit more specific. In other words, in this case, the ha is an interrogative particle, which signifies the sentence is a yes or no question. So this is how we're getting this question. Shall any teach God knowledge? And because of the Hebrew, it's not just unto God, but Hallel, Hallel. Ha is sort of a movement towards something. So it could be like toward unto God, that kind of idea. But even though that's not very good translation to English, but more of a literal understanding of that concept. So we see the same thing here in chapter 22 of Job, verse 2. Can any man be profitable unto God, as he that is wise may be profitable unto himself? Again, Hallel or Hallel. And again, that the ha is an interrogative particle, which signifies the sentence is a yes or no question. And but what I'm trying to show you is like all these separate prefixes that can be attached to Hebrew words. We're looking at the various forms of this title El. I'm including these forms as showing the different particles that are acting as a prefix or a suffix, and we're looking at all of these instances throughout the scriptures here. So in Job chapter 22 verse 13 it reads, "And thou sayest, how doth God know? Can he judge through the dark cloud?" The Hebrew is Ma Yada El. It's got the makef or the makif hyphen. Ma Yada El. How doth God know? And again, we're seeing that the title El is at the end of the sentence. In English, we're putting the word no at the end of the sentence. In the Hebrew, we're putting the word no in the middle here. Ma being translated how, and Yada, know, God. So how does he know? God. In other words, how does God know? And then also I wanted to note that there's a usage of the word Eloah in chapter 22, verse 12, which is the very verse preceding this one, which we'll just take a look at here. This is 13 with the usage of El. But in the previous verse, in verse 22, chapter 22, verse 12, we see Eloah, which is Halo Eloah, okay, which is also this usage of the particle ha, signifying a question, and lo meaning not, hence the translation is not God, Halo Eloah, and so right after this verse 12, we get another God word, which is El, but in this case, we're saying Ma Yada El. And so the significance of these two verses together is that they're using the words interchangeably. They're using the word Eloah, and then they're using the word El. Who is Eloah? Eloah is El. Who is El? El is Eloah. Okay, so I just wanted to continue to point these things out as we go along about the interchangeability and the synonymous usage of words here. And so moving on to Job chapter 22, verse 17, it reads, "Which said unto God, Depart from us, and what can the Almighty do for them?" So again, we have two God words in this verse. We have El, and then we also have Shaddai. But they're not used together, they're used separately. So in this case, La'el, which is unto God, La'el, and then Shaddai. So let's look at the Hebrew. In the same verse, Shaddai appears. Again, not as a compound El Shaddai, but as by itself. So here in the first part of the verse, we see La'el. And then here at the very end of the verse, highlighted here, Shaddai. Okay? So again, this is, in English, which said unto God, depart from us, and what can the Almighty do for them? So who is God, El? He is Shaddai. Okay? All right. I'm going to leave it right there. We're going to stop. And in the next video, we're going to pick up with Job chapter 23, verse 16. So God bless you all. I look forward to my next video. And everyone, keep seeking truth.